The notification popped up on Claire's phone at exactly 9:17 p.m. She was curled up on the couch, wrapped in the oversized hoodie she had stolen from Mark years ago, mindlessly scrolling through Instagram when the message came through. At first she almost didn't bother looking. She had been deliberately ignoring her notifications all evening, choosing instead to enjoy the rare quiet of the apartment. But something about the way the screen lit up, something about the way her gut twisted before she even read the words, made her pause. She tapped the message. Mark, Claire, we need to talk. Actually, no, we don't. I'm leaving. I found someone else. Someone who actually understands me. By the way, don't bother calling, I've blocked you. For a moment Claire just stared. Her pulse remained steady. Her fingers didn't tremble. Her mind didn't spiral into chaos, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Because deep down she already knew. The way Mark had been coming home late for the past few months. The way he had started being careful with his phone, turning the screen away from her whenever he got a text. The way her best friend Olivia had suddenly started acting different. Pulling away, canceling plans, posting cryptic little Instagram captions about finding your true happiness. Claire wasn't stupid. She had known something was going on. And now finally they had been dumb enough to confirm it. Slowly she inhaled through her nose, then exhaled, calm and controlled. She clicked out of the messages and tapped open Instagram, her gut already telling her exactly what she would find. And there was the selfie. Taken at a luxury resort, not the kind of place Mark had ever taken her. He sat at an outdoor restaurant table, sunglasses perched on his head, arm draped around a very familiar blonde woman. Olivia. Claire's best friend. The caption was the worst part. Starting my new life with the woman who was meant for me all along, red heart. Claire felt something sharp and electric coil deep in her stomach. Not heartbreak. Not devastation. Not even anger. Satisfaction. Because Mark and Olivia had no idea that she had been preparing for this moment for months. And what they thought was a clean break was about to become their worst nightmare. The first sign had come 3 months ago. Mark had always been a creature of habit. He woke up at the same time every morning, had his coffee with exactly 1 sugar and a splash of oat milk, and kissed Claire on the cheek before heading off to work. He came home by 6, complained about traffic and collapsed onto the couch to watch TV until dinner. Their routine wasn't exciting, but it was stable. Then one evening he came home late. At first Claire didn't think much of it. Meetings ran long sometimes. Maybe there had been an accident on the highway. But when she asked, Mark barely looked up from his phone and muttered something about work being crazy. That was the second sign. The phone. Mark had always been careless with it, leaving it lying around, half the time forgetting to charge it. But suddenly it was always in his pocket or face down on the counter. He had turned off message previews so no one could read his notifications. Claire noticed, but she said nothing. Then Olivia started acting differently. They had been best friends for 10 years, inseparable since college. Olivia knew everything about her. Her favorite coffee order, the way she hated when people chewed too loudly, the fact that she cried every time she watched old home videos of her dad before he passed away. But lately Olivia had been distant. She canceled brunch plans. She took longer to reply to texts. When they did meet up, she always seemed distracted, her eyes darting toward the door every time Claire looked away. And then there were the social media posts. Vague captions about unexpected love and following your heart. Pictures of fancy dinners she had never mentioned. Comments from unknown usernames with winking emojis and inside jokes Claire wasn't part of. By then Claire knew something was going on. But instead of confronting them, she decided to wait. And prepare. She started with their finances. The joint account she shared with Mark had over $30,000 in it. Quietly, carefully, she began transferring small amounts into her personal savings. Just enough that he wouldn't notice. She made sure her name was the only one on the deed to the house. She collected every receipt, every suspicious text she had glimpsed over Mark's shoulder, every excuse Olivia had given her in the last 3 months. And finally, 2 weeks ago she had gone to a lawyer. Claire had sat in a sleek leather chair across from an older woman with sharp eyes and a sharper mind, explaining the situation in calm, measured tones. The lawyer had listened, nodding occasionally before tapping her pen against a folder on her desk. You have everything you need, she had said. If he tries to take anything from you, he won't get far. Claire had left that office feeling something close to relief. So when Mark's message came through at 9:17 p.m., she wasn't shocked. She wasn't devastated. She was ready. Because Mark thought he was playing her. He had no idea that she was 2 steps ahead. The next morning, Claire woke up feeling weightless. Not broken. Not lost. Not furious. Just free. Sunlight streamed through the curtains, painting golden streaks across the bed. For the first time in months, she didn't wake up to Mark's alarm blaring at 6 in the morning or the sound of him grumbling about needing coffee. The apartment was silent. Peaceful. She stretched, took her time getting out of bed and made herself breakfast. She sat at the kitchen table with a fresh cup of coffee, scrolling through her phone, waiting for the inevitable. It didn't take long. The first text came from her mother. "Claire, is this true? Mark and Olivia? I just saw his post. Call me." Then her coworker, Jenna. "Oh my God. Are you okay? What an absolute piece of garbage." Then Mark's sister. "Claire, I don't know what to say. This is disgusting. I'm so sorry." More messages poured in, each one confirming what she already knew. Mark and Olivia had spent the entire night basking in their new relationship, showing off to the world. They probably thought Claire was devastated, too heartbroken to function, drowning in humiliation. She smirked and took another sip of coffee. They wanted a spectacle. They wanted to be the main characters of some tragic love story where Mark was the brave man who followed his heart and Olivia was the misunderstood soul who had simply fallen for the wrong person at the wrong time. Claire wasn't going to give them that satisfaction. Instead, she opened Instagram. She knew exactly what people were expecting, either complete silence or a bitter, emotional rant. So she gave them neither. She took a simple photo of her coffee cup, the steam curling into the morning light, and added a short caption. "Best cup of coffee I've had in years." Then she hit post and turned off her phone. Let them interpret that however they wanted. She spent the rest of the morning enjoying the silence, watching a show she hadn't had time for, reorganizing the bookshelf that Mark had always complained was too cluttered. By noon, curiosity got the better of her. She turned her phone back on and it immediately vibrated with a new message. From an unknown number. "Claire, can we talk?" She almost laughed. Mark hadn't even lasted 12 hours. Claire stared at the message for a few seconds, then locked her phone and set it face down on the table. She had expected Mark to reach out eventually, but she hadn't thought it would happen this quickly. 12 hours. That was all it took for his confidence to crack. She finished her coffee in silence, then stood and went about her day as if nothing had happened. She didn't rush to text him back. She didn't feel the urge to call and demand answers. She had been preparing for this for too long to let impatience ruin the moment. Instead, she got dressed, grabbed her bag and drove to her lawyer's office. The receptionist greeted her with a knowing smile and gestured toward the same leather chair Claire had sat in 2 weeks ago. The lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Evelyn Monroe, leaned back in her seat and folded her hands together. "I assume you're here because it happened," she said. Claire nodded. "Last night." He moved in with her. Evelyn didn't look surprised. "Then it's time to move forward." She pulled out a folder from her drawer and slid it across the desk. Claire opened it, scanning the neatly typed documents inside. Everything was there. The divorce petition. The financial records showing that she had removed her assets from their shared account before Mark could get his hands on them. The documentation proving that the house was in her name alone. "You're in a strong position," Evelyn said. "He has no legal claim to your home. He also can't take anything from your personal accounts. The only thing he can fight for is the furniture, and frankly, I doubt he'll want to spend money on a lawyer just to argue over a couch." Claire smirked. "No, he'd rather spend it on overpriced cocktails with Olivia." Evelyn chuckled. "That works in your favor. He's going to realize very quickly that maintaining a new relationship isn't cheap, especially without the financial cushion he thought he had. I give it a few weeks before the panic sets in." Claire tapped her fingers against the edge of the folder. "And the emails?" Evelyn raised an eyebrow. "The ones you sent me? They're damning. If he tries to argue in court, we can use them to prove that he and Olivia were planning this long before he left. That won't look good for him." Claire leaned back in her chair, exhaling slowly. Everything was falling into place. "File it," she said. "Let's get this started." Evelyn nodded and gathered the documents. "Consider it done. Now what's your next move?" Claire thought for a moment, then picked up her phone and unlocked it. Mark's message was still sitting there unread. She smiled, typed a short reply and hit send. Talk about what? You made your decision. Enjoy it. Then she turned off her phone again and walked out of the office, the sound of her heels clicking against the polished floor. Mark wanted to talk. He had no idea that conversation was never going to happen. By the time Claire got home, the afternoon sun had shifted, casting golden light through the windows. The apartment was quiet, and for the first time in what felt like years, it didn't feel suffocating. She had lived here with Mark for almost 5 years, but now that he was gone, the space felt bigger, lighter, as if she had finally exhaled after holding her breath for too long. She set her bag down, poured herself a glass of wine, and let herself enjoy the silence. Her phone, which had been off since she left Evelyn's office, sat on the kitchen counter, waiting. She didn't feel the urge to check it. She knew what she would find. Mark wouldn't take silence well. He would see it as a challenge, an insult, proof that she wasn't as devastated as he had hoped. After a long sip of wine, she finally turned the phone back on. The screen lit up with a flood of notifications. Mark had sent 3 more messages. Claire, come on. Can we just talk? I know you're mad, but we don't have to make this ugly. Olivia is upset about what you did. Why would you send those emails? Claire's smirk was instant. There was the cracks. The first real sign that things weren't as perfect as Mark had hoped. She tapped on the unread texts from Olivia. You're unbelievable. Do you have any idea what you've done? My parents won't even talk to me. Was this your plan all along? To make us look like the bad guys? Grow up, Claire. Move on. Claire laughed softly, shaking her head. Olivia always did have a talent for playing the victim. She took another sip of wine and then carefully, deliberately, crafted a response to Mark. I didn't do anything, Mark. I just made sure the truth was available to the people who deserved to know it. If that caused problems for you, maybe you should ask yourself why. She hit send and watched as the message changed from delivered to read within seconds. It took him a full 5 minutes to reply. You don't have to be like this. I never wanted to hurt you. Claire rolled her eyes. The audacity. She had seen the emails, the messages between him and Olivia, laughing at how easy this was going to be, how she would never see it coming. She typed her final response. You already did. But don't worry, Mark. You'll feel it soon enough. Then she put her phone down and turned on the TV, ignoring the 3 dots that appeared as he tried to think of something else to say. Let him sweat. He had no idea how much worse it was going to get. The next few days unfolded exactly the way Claire expected. Mark and Olivia had spent the first 24 hours basking in their new relationship, posting pictures, tagging each other in inside jokes, pretending the world around them didn't exist. The comments on their photos were mixed. Some friends congratulated them, either oblivious or willfully ignorant of how their relationship had started. Others weren't as kind. Claire had watched without reacting, sipping her morning coffee as the drama unfolded. But then, as expected, the honeymoon phase cracked. By day 3, the first real shift happened. Olivia had deleted several of her more boastful posts. Claire had noticed it when Jenna, her coworker, had sent her a text with a screenshot. Looks like someone's feeling the heat. Claire smirked. It was happening even faster than she anticipated. Mark's family had not taken the news well. His mother, a woman who had always prided herself on family loyalty, had cut off all contact. His sister had gone a step further. She had publicly commented on one of Olivia's posts. You two deserve each other. That comment alone had sent Mark into damage control mode, something Claire knew he had never been good at. He hated when people didn't see him as the good guy. He wanted the world to believe he was a romantic hero, a man who had simply followed his heart, not someone who had betrayed his wife for her best friend. So he did exactly what Claire had been waiting for. He tried to meet with her in person. The text came in at noon. Claire, I think we should talk face to face. I owe you that much. She let the message sit there for an hour before replying. About what? His answer was quick. Everything. I don't want us to hate each other. Let's just be adults about this. She almost laughed. Mark had spent months plotting behind her back, and now he wanted to act like this was a mutual, mature decision. Like they were just 2 people who had drifted apart instead of 2 people he had deliberately deceived. She tapped out a response. Fine. Meet me tomorrow at 5. The cafe on 8th. She could feel the relief in his next message, as if he had convinced himself that he still had some control over this situation. She let him have that moment, because tomorrow she was going to make sure he never felt in control again. Claire arrived at the cafe 10 minutes early. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't anxious. She wasn't even angry. What she felt was anticipation, the kind that settled deep in her bones, a quiet hum of satisfaction knowing that this was the moment everything would shift for good. She chose a table by the window where the evening light spilled in just right, casting a warm glow over the wooden floors and polished tables. The cafe wasn't crowded, just a few people scattered about, some hunched over laptops, others chatting in low voices. It was the perfect setting for what she had planned. She saw him before he saw her. Mark entered the cafe with that same casual arrogance he had always carried, like he expected the world to bend around him. But there was something different now. He looked tired, his shoulders tense, his eyes scanning the room before finally landing on her. He smiled. He didn't. He hesitated for half a second, then walked over, sliding into the seat across from her. "Claire," he started, his voice carefully controlled as if he were stepping onto thin ice. "Thanks for meeting me." She simply tilted her head, waiting. He sighed, rubbing a hand over his face. "Look, I know this has been messy, but I don't want things to be ugly between us." She almost laughed. Messy. That was the word he chose. As if he had accidentally spilled coffee instead of systematically betraying her. She folded her hands on the table. "What do you want, Mark?" He flinched slightly at her tone but recovered quickly. "I just think we should talk. I don't want us to be enemies." "Enemies," she echoed. "Mark, I don't think about you enough for that." He blinked, clearly thrown off. He had expected anger. Maybe even sadness. But this indifference. He didn't know how to handle it. "I made mistakes," he admitted, shifting in his seat. "But I didn't mean to hurt you." There was the classic Mark non-apology. She leaned back, studying him. "So you accidentally cheated on me? Accidentally moved in with my best friend?" He exhaled, frustrated. "That's not what I mean, Claire. He paused, shaking his head. "I didn't expect everything to blow up like this. My family is furious. Olivia's been upset." Claire raised an eyebrow. "Oh no, Olivia is upset? That must be so hard for her." Mark frowned. "Claire, come on." "No, really," she said, voice sharp. "I want to know, what exactly did you think was going to happen? That we would all just laugh about it over drinks? That I'd cry for a few weeks and then wish you and Olivia the best? I thought you'd understand." She stared at him. He actually believed that. "You thought I'd understand," she repeated slowly. Mark ran a hand through his hair, exasperated. "I just meant, you and I weren't happy, Claire. You have to admit that." "You weren't happy," she corrected. "I was content. Until you decided I wasn't enough." He had nothing to say to that. For the first time Claire saw it, realization settling into his face. Maybe he hadn't fully processed what he had done before. Maybe he had convinced himself that his version of the story was the truth. But now, sitting across from her, looking at the woman he had underestimated, he finally understood. She wasn't broken. She wasn't lost. She was free. She pulled a neatly folded document from her purse and placed it on the table between them. Mark's face paled. "What is this?" "Divorce papers." His jaw tightened. "Claire, don't do this." She tilted her head, amused. "Do what?" He swallowed hard. "Can't we just—" "No," she said, cutting him off. "We can't." Mark stared at the papers, his fingers twitching like he wanted to crumple them up, erase them, pretend none of this was happening. But it was happening. And she was the one in control now. "Sign them, Mark," she said, standing up. "Or don't. Either way, you're already gone." She turned and walked away without looking back. And for the first time he was the one left behind. Claire didn't look back as she walked out of the cafe. He didn't need to. She could feel the weight of Mark's realization settling over him, the slow, dawning horror of understanding that she had already moved on. That was the difference between them. Mark had thought leaving her was a victory. That he was walking into a better life, one filled with excitement and new beginnings. But now he was realizing the truth. He had traded stability for chaos, respect for scandal, love for a fleeting infatuation that was already crumbling. And Claire? She had lost nothing. By the time she got home, the sun had dipped below the skyline, casting long shadows across the apartment. Felt different now. Lighter. The ghost of Mark's presence had faded, leaving behind a space that was truly hers. She poured herself a glass of wine and stepped out onto the small balcony, letting the cool evening air wash over her. The city stretched out before her, alive and buzzing, and for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. Her phone buzzed on the table behind her. She already knew who it was. She let it sit for a moment before turning back inside, picking up the device and unlocking it. "Mark, I signed the papers. I hope we can at least be civil about this." Claire exhaled slowly, feeling nothing but relief. "Claire, we already are. Goodbye, Mark." She hit send and immediately blocked his number, watching as the message thread disappeared. There was nothing left to say. Nothing left to explain. A second notification flashed on the screen. "Jenna. Dinner this weekend? You deserve to celebrate." Claire smiled, typing back. "Absolutely." She put the phone down and stepped back onto the balcony, taking another sip of wine. Mark and Olivia had expected her to crumble. Instead, she had rebuilt herself from the ground up. And for the first time in a long time, the future felt like hers alone.